Hey, Paul, how often does Gerard and Associates see equipment failures at the patient's bedside?
It doesn't happen a ton, Kevin, but it does happen, and it happens in the worst possible moments. So we see this frequently where there's equipment failure, and then once that happens, you're in a heap of trouble because you've got to improvise on the fly, and hopefully your improvisations are good enough that it won't negatively impact patient care.
Uh, what is a predominant cause of these equipment failures at the patient's bedside? Seems like a truck checking issue to me.
Well, sometimes it is. In fact, most times it is, to be honest with you. I mean, there's legitimate equipment failures. You check your truck in the morning, you get out there, something bad happens. That does happen on occasion. But most of the times when you do a root cause analysis, it turns out that the provider didn't do a thorough enough vehicle checklist before leaving the barn that day. So I think that's probably the biggest advice we give people is make sure you do your vehicle checklist and be thorough, even though, it's easy to get lazy and complacent on this. When you get upstairs to a cardiac arrest and your monitor battery's dead and you don't have a spare because you didn't check your truck that morning to make sure you had the stuff, you've got no EKG paper or no electrodes to use on this patient, all these things that can happen if you don't do a checklist, you got to make sure they don't happen.
Since today's paramedics don't seem to be able to intubate at the level that we did back in the day, how many issues with laryngoscopes are you finding? Dead batteries.
Well, we haven't seen one of those in a little while, and it's partly because we're not intubating as often. We have tools like CPAP now that we can use. We have LMAs and non-tracheal devices that we can use. And so it seems that intubation, at least in a lot of the agencies we work in, has taken a back seat. There are a lot of agency medical directors now who are okay with BLS airways as long as they do a great job bagging the patient. They don't really care if you do an advanced airway. So because of that, there's been less. You also have tools such as videoscopy, where you use video laryngoscopy type of stuff so you can see what you're doing. So we don't see as much of the dead battery thing, but we do see other equipment failures in that category, not not checking to make sure that video unit is working properly, for example. So it still happens with other things in relation to that, if not the actual dead battery issue.
How do you get into the mindset of making sure that you're checking your truck and you're bringing operable equipment to the patient's bedside?
Again, this is just you training yourself, right? You're going to get used to when I show up in the morning, the first thing I'm going to do is grab my cup of coffee, get my ass in the truck, start reviewing my checklist and have my coffee while I'm doing my checklist, as opposed to spending a half an hour chit-chatting with everybody, having your cup of coffee, then a call comes in, and now you're stuck with your pants down. So, in most cases, whenever you have an equipment failure, in most agencies nowadays, it's required by state law or regulation or somebody that you report that equipment failure. And as soon as you report that equipment failure, what do you think the first thing they're going to check is? They're going to check to see if you did your vehicle checklist that morning and you actually checked the stuff out. So again, it's easy in a lot of cases to get to that point where, you can say, hey, you just clearly didn't do a good enough checklist. When you can't intubate a patient because you don't have an 8.0 tube because that size wasn't in your intubation bag, that's I didn't check my bag issue, right? Yeah. So you can't blame anything else. So don't get caught with your pants down. Don't get in trouble over silly, stupid stuff. Check your vehicle equipment every morning. Make it part of your practice. Make it part of your religious experience in EMS to check my truck before going on a call. If you do happen to get a call at 8, as soon as you come in for your change of shift, or 7, or whatever time that is, you're a little bit at the whims of the previous group. But if everybody culturally within that organization has that same attitude, you just won't have these problems.
And that's a never fail mindset.
Right. Absolutely. And that starts with management, right? Management has got to instill that on their crews, that's their expectation, that will be done, that they won't allow people to chit chat and bullshit out on the apron, for half an hour, 45 minutes before they get to their vehicle truck checks. So it's just got to be done first thing when you get in to make sure you don't get in trouble.
Teaching, coaching, mentoring, oversight, and making sure that we are very detailed in our prep work, being mission ready, being focused. Any other advice?
I think that you need to, it's a good, one of the good things you can do to perpetuate this thought process is make sure that your partners know that this is who you are as a crew. And whenever you do any kind of precepting or anything with new employees, impart upon them the importance of doing their vehicle checklist. It's not just a random maintenance-y task that you just got to get done. It's something that could impact the patient's life in certain circumstances. And we did not get into EMS to have negative impacts on patients' lives.
Are these never events, Paul?
They should be. Yeah, in most cases they are. It depends, assuming it's preventable. But probably 95% of these are never events where they just should not occur. The other 5% is I just came in, and as soon as I got there, the call went out, and I grabbed the first truck I could and did the call. So some of it you can't help, but in most cases it can be prevented.
Well, it's airway, breathing, circulation, and you can't have that without all necessary equipment. If they wanted more information about services that could be provided by Gerard and Associates to help tackle this problem, where would they go?
They can go to our website, GerardAssoc.com. We have all sorts of tools there for people who want to learn more about our organization, but we also have our podcasts, Kevin. They're on that page that they can access, as well as articles on EMS quality improvement and how to do it and how to do it well.
All right, there you have it, folks. For Paul Gerard, I am Kevin Kelly. Have a great day.